So Lisa, just let me know when it's okay to start. Are you ready, Lisa? You're muted.
Yes, sorry. All the commissioners, I think, are back in and YouTube is live.
Great. Okay. Welcome to the afternoon session of the Landmarks Preservation Commission's November 17th public hearing and public meeting day. We are on item number 3 of our public hearing agenda, and I will turn it over to Corey Haralov, Director of Preservation, to continue the hearing agenda for this afternoon. Corey?
Thanks, Sarah. I'll go ahead and read the item in. We may still need just a minute to get the applicants into the room, but starting with the record, item number 3, this is LPC 21-02877, an application for a binding report in the borough of Manhattan. The site is West Broadway, Reed, Chambers, and Hudson Street, intersection the James BOGARDUS Triangle and the Tribeca West Historic District. A raised triangular shaped pedestrian island created circa 1920. The application is to install a PDC approved food kiosk. And as mentioned, I think we are still trying to get the presenters into the hearing room, so it may be just a minute still.
While we're waiting, Corey, PDC still refers to the Public Design Commission?
Correct. Okay, I think we do have Nick Pedinati now in the room. So Edith, do we need to start anything else, or are we ready to go with the slides? Nick, do you want to begin? I think you have control of the slides. If you'll click on the screen, you can control the slides, and just state your name for the record. You may begin.
Great. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Nick Pedinati. I work for the New York City Department of Transportation. I'm joined today by a couple of colleagues from DOT, Emily Weidenhoff, the Director of Public Space, as well as my colleague Christina Yu in the Urban Design Division. And we're here today to talk to you about the siting of a PDC-approved prototypical kiosk in BOGARDUS Triangle. Okay. So just by way of introduction, again, the DOT has managed a PLAZA program now for many years to create public space throughout the city. As part of that overall program, we work with local partners throughout. And one of the key things that we've been working on with those partners is a way to support the maintenance of these new public spaces that are created. And generally, we do that through a concession mechanism whereby we partner with that local organization, and then they are able to sub-concession out to a local restaurant or a local retail entity who would then operate in the public space. That revenue that is generated then gets funneled back into the plaza for maintenance purposes. And so this is a really key revenue stream for our partners. It's a really key way to make sure that these public spaces remain viable and maintained. And it's something that we're working on across the city. As part of that process, we have worked with the Public Design Commission on the design of a standard kiosk, something that, again, is based on sort of these parameters and is very much intended to be in keeping with sort of the citywide precedent for street furniture that we see throughout. So our coordinated street furniture franchise, bus shelters, newsstands, automatic pay toilets, things that I'm sure you're all very familiar with and have seen both inside and outside of historic districts throughout the city. Again, this is the design of the kiosk. This is something that was approved for PDC and is something that we do intend to use throughout the city and our plazas for this purpose. Now, transitioning more specifically to what we're here to talk about today, again, we have been looking at the use of the prototypical kiosk in plazas that are within historic districts. This is a map that shows the 3 projects that the commission has actually previously reviewed and approved, Gansevoort Plaza, BOGARDUS, as well as Dumbo. We're going to speak specifically today about the location at BOGARDUS Plaza. So giving some context, this is obviously where the site is in context of the city at large. We're in sort of the very corner of the Tribeca West Historic District. And again, from a historic perspective, the next couple slides show you some photos of what that triangle space was like over the time. It's always been a very bustling place, very much a transportation hub, filled with people, filled with energy. You have the subway station that's there. It was previously the elevated rail line, which you can see in some of these historic photos. And it obviously, once the elevator was torn down and put underground, we still have the subway entrance that pops up right at BOGARDUS Triangle. And again, just to reemphasize that point, this has always been sort of a very bustling neighborhood and very much this particular site a transportation hub. These are from the actual designation report. The district itself was designated in 1991. You can get a sense of sort of what the triangle looked like at that point. And we have been working in the space for a number of years. This was what the plaza looked like after we completed a DOT operational project to close down that portion of Hutchins Street and create a plaza extending sort of the triangle to the building frontages. And as the commission may recall, we reviewed the proposed plans for these in 2015, 2016, and that project was approved. And this is actually, it's been under construction for quite some time. These are some photos of that construction as it's going on. It is still actually under construction. If you go over there, you'll see that they're still fencing up and they're still doing some work, but we are very close to actually finishing that construction. I know that's been something that the community has been advocating for a long time to wrap this up and get the space back open and for use to the public. This was the approved plan that was approved by the commission back in January of 2016. You can see some of the overall layout. We did, I don't know if you can see my mouse, there was an indication of what a future kiosk location may be even at that point. Although at that point, the design of the kiosk was not yet advanced. The plaza itself is being constructed as approved. There have been very few changes. A couple plant species have shifted just for practical purposes, but otherwise the plaza is proceeding as it was approved. Again, just drawing attention to that specific location along West Broadway, sort of at the edge, or the outer edge of the planting bed. The shading here is just different colors of paving and different paving materials. And then just to go through some photos to show you what the location of the kiosk is intended to be. This is obviously the street view from before the plaza construction was going on, but just to give you a sense, the proposed kiosk location is sort of nestled right at the end of this existing planting bed, sort of along the West Broadway frontage and facing the plaza. This is actually a photo that was taken just a week ago. So it gives you almost a real-time sense of what the current condition is. And again, that kiosk is sited sort of just outside that planting bed, but along that same frontage. This is, I think, a helpful diagram just to give everybody a sense of some of the constraints that we were dealing with in trying to find a location for the kiosk. We do have to maintain FDNY fire truck access through the site. The existing planting bed is something that was maintained and enhanced as part of the plaza. And then obviously you have the subway entrance, some additional existing trees, and then building entrances and circulation along the building frontage here, as well as the sidewalks along West Broadway. So there weren't a lot of locations that really seemed viable in terms of where we were trying to site this piece of infrastructure, and this is really one that hit all of the marks and very much serves the sort of the key constituency, which will be the users of the plaza. So again, this just goes over some of those key points. This is an aerial that actually shows, again, the plaza under construction and almost complete. This was from, I think, September of 2020, so not that long ago as well. And then we did try to put together sort of a somewhat photorealistic montage of what the kiosk may look like in situ. Again, this is as quickly as we could do it, just to give you as good a visual sense of what we can. But the notion is that we're really trying to avoid some of those main circulation paths and site it in a place that is still functional and usable for the kiosk, supports that overall mission, but very much cited in context of the other site constraints in the triangle itself. And so that's it. I tried to get through that as quickly as possible so we can leave as much time for discussions, but happy to answer any questions and provide more context as may be needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do we have any questions? Okay, not seeing any questions. Let's see if we have anyone here to testify. If you're in the Zoom meeting and would like to testify in this item, please raise your virtual hand so we can identify you. And Lisa Kersavage will walk us through the testimony, starting with anyone who signed up in advance.
Okay, thank you. And we did have 3 people sign up. Start with George Calderaro. And George, I brought you in. Just need to turn off your, there you go.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Carroll and commissioners. I'm George Calderaro. I'm chair of the Preservation Committee of the New York Metro chapter of the Victorian Society in America. Founded in New York City in 1966, the Victorian Society in America is dedicated to fostering the appreciation and preservation of our 19th and early 20th century heritage. We comment on this project because of the close relationship of BOGARDUS Triangle with Margot Gale, co-founder of the Victorian Society in America. Ms. Gale was a giant of the modern day preservation movement in New York. She founded Friends of Cast Iron Architecture, worked to save the Jefferson Market Courthouse, and make it one of the first adaptive reuse projects in the city to designate the Soho Cast Iron and Ladies Mile historic districts, and to identify and eventually designate historic cast iron sidewalk clocks and lampposts throughout the city. She was responsible for naming this former street intersection James Bogardus Triangle in honor of the inventor of cast iron fronted buildings, a number of which he built nearby and some of which still stand. We appreciate that the not-for-profit Friends of Bogardus Garden needs the income from the food service concession to pay for maintenance and operation of this space, a public amenity, which ideally would be operated by the City of New York. But we're disappointed at the proposed design. The stainless steel box, essentially a food truck without wheels, fails to respond to the richness of materials and designs in the surroundings, the texture of Tribeca. It doesn't even relate well to the pleasant detailing of the LPC approved redesign of the triangle. Because it doesn't fit in well, it will tend to visually dominate its setting and will, from some perspectives, obscure the antique cast iron sidewalk post clock being installed nearby. We suggest that this is a location where a non-standard design, which the applicant notes in slide 2 of his presentation, can be incorporated based on this significant location would be more appropriate. Further, the proposal has been presented without specifics of a signage program. If signs, menu boards, and so on fill all the spaces allotted to them in the standard design, especially if lighted, the effect will be overwhelming. Signage, lighting, and ancillary objects like trash and storage containers must be clearly defined, designed, and limited in scale and scope. We recommend that a specific proposal for these features also be brought to the Commission for review. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Kelly Carroll.
Kelly Carroll, Historic Districts Council. HDC understands that the proposed kiosk before the Commission is a PDC approved prototype. In this case, we feel that a one-size-fits-all approach is not appropriate for this location. In historic districts, details count. Tactile paving at crosswalks for ADA are employed in natural colors rather than red. Street signs are terracotta colored rather than interstate green. Bishop's Crook lampposts may be present rather than cobra heads, and the list goes on. Kiosks are no different than these layers of historic districts. HDC would like to see a kiosk design that has a dialogue with the history and materials of its location. This plaza honors the father of cast iron architecture, James BOGARDUS, whose iron-fronted buildings characterize much of downtown Manhattan, including the Tribeca historic districts. Regardless of this new structure's permanence, the LPC's feedback for this application is binding, and we hope that commissioners will issue a report to the Public Design Commission that encourages a more historic design. HDC also found the signage program excessive. Signs should follow the less is more rule within historic districts. Finally, HDC has concerns about refuse generated from this vendor. We did not see any garbage or recycling bins in the proposed scheme. As such, we were unable to cumulatively determine possible clutter in this plaza. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Victoria Vile. Okay, Victoria, I've brought you in. You just need to unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you choose. Okay, Victoria, I'm going to ask you unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted, yes?
Yes.
You can hear me, but you
Yes.
can't see me, and I'm not sure why, because, okay, I'll just speak then. Hi, I'm Victoria Weil. I'm the president of the Friends of BOGARDUS Plaza. I was here in 2016 speaking before the commissioners about the eggs. So I've been, and I live right in the neighborhood. My building overlooks the plaza, so I have a lot at stake here. I'm speaking in support of this kiosk. It has been an incredibly long construction project, but the end product is going to be amazing. I don't know if anyone has been by, but it's just going to be gorgeous. A lot of thought went into the design, but it's going to be expensive to maintain. So it is critical to our mission to have the financial ability to keep the plaza beautiful. And we need to have a sub-concessionaire. So I think that's been established, but I want to make it clear that there needs to be something on the plaza. I'll defend the design. There's sort of three things that I think are worthy of mentioning. This design, this kiosk, is going to be rolled out citywide and matches other citywide elements that are within half a block of the plaza, namely the bus shelters, the city benches, the newsstands, and it reads as a public amenity. And I think that's an important part of this public plaza, that people will see this kiosk and be like, oh, that's a place where I can get something to eat or drink. So that's one argument. Also, we're in the middle of this pandemic, and we've shown this design to half a dozen local business owners just to see what they thought of it, and all of them loved it. Not only is it customizable, but more importantly, in this particular environment, few business owners have the financial capacity to design, build, and install a structure. Our plan is to oversee the purchase and installation of the kiosk, assuming approval. And because we're taking on the financial burden, it's more attractive to potential bidders and will likely give us more options to choose from. And I guess my final thing is that if it's not improved, we're going to end up with a series of temporary structures over time. And my understanding is that temporary structures do not fall under your jurisdiction. So we'll have less control over the shape, the color, the signage of whatever lands on the plaza. And personally, I'd rather go with a known and controlled element. The plaza is already a mix of new and old. We have the 100-year-old cast iron clock tower juxtaposed with the 13 whimsical egg-shaped granite blocks. We have the antique-looking B light poles with the recycled plastic lumber deck. The kiosk, in my opinion, fits right in and would benefit the plaza and more broadly our community. Sorry about the lack of camera there. I'm not used to the Zoom on my desktop.
That's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I don't see anybody else with their hand raised.
Sarah, you're on mute.
Yes, I know. Rich, did we receive any written testimony?
We did receive a resolution from Manhattan Community Board 1 recommending denial of the application, but encouraging the applicant to create a more appropriate design.
Okay, so it seems supportive of the location, but denial of the design. Okay. So I know we have a few questions, and before we get to our questions, I'd like to just turn to Mr. Pedinati and see if you want to respond to any of the comments.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chair. Sorry. I think I would just echo Victoria's comments here in that, we certainly understand some of the concerns raised, but do feel that this is an appropriate location, and that's really what we've focused on here. I think we're happy to talk further with the commissioners about signage if that's a particular point of concern. And certainly from the refuse and garbage collection, it will be a requirement of the vendor to take care of that on a daily basis. So we do not expect there to be any accumulation of trash or recyclables as part of that effort. Again, we can certainly focus in on that piece, but I did want to clarify those two components.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to clarify the questions in the testimony about jurisdiction. So the commission is advisory on the design when items or installations are citywide and not primarily concerning a landmark or historic district. The Public Design Commission has binding jurisdiction, and we have advisory jurisdiction. So our comments on design would be advisory. Having said that, we are binding on location. It is being proposed within a historic district, and our discussion about location would be binding. So let me just turn to our questions. I'll start with Commissioner Goldblum and then go to Commissioner Shamir Barron. Go ahead, Commissioner Goldblum.
I just had a quick question about customizability. Is the module customizable in color and finish and the panel material?
So in general, we've tried to stick with materiality that we know is maintainable. So it is very durable materials. We do have some additional slides if we want to get into that discussion, but it is primarily stainless steel. They are panelized on the bottom so that if there is graffiti or damage, it can be easily replaced. So the goal is to keep it consistent and sort of within the overall citywide family of material finishes. And to some extent, while there is also a DOT or a city agency management component to this, the structure will be primarily managed by our PLAZA partner. But should we ultimately need to perform any repairs, the agency does want to make sure that there are components that are sort of readily available and easy for us to access from a maintenance perspective.
Right, but I don't think you answered the question. You said you'd prefer to keep it all the same, but my question was, can you modify it?
So I mean, I think the DOT's perspective is we don't want to modify the standard design from a consistency perspective and from a maintainability perspective. Certainly from a construction or a purely engineering feasibility, yes, there are components that could be changed.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Commissioner Shamir Barron.
Yeah, I'm just having a little trouble understanding the size and scale of the thing. On page 21, it almost looks like it's sort of too small on the site elevation, unless I'm not understanding. Is it meant for one person to occupy the inside of it? And what's the overall height? It looks like it's maybe less than 8 feet.
Sure. So if we go all the way back to the beginning, the dimensions are 9 by, oops, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
No, that's okay. So the intended dimensions are 9 by 12 by 10. So it's 9 feet by 12 feet wide, 10 feet tall. It is, again, the inside can be fit out in a number of different ways, depending on what the final vendor use is. But it is fairly compact. There's not a lot of room for multiple people.
Yeah.
The perspective may be a touch misleading, and I do apologize for that.
It's very odd because it doesn't look like it's a 10-foot tall structure. So that's why
we struggle to try to get the proportions right, and that it sort of fits within that space, but the scaling is a touch off. I do apologize.
And just to follow up on that, how is it attached to the ground, or is it in fact movable?
It is intended to be a permanent structure. There will be utility connections. It will sit on essentially a concrete foundation. So it's a fairly, again, the intent is for it to be mostly modular prefabricated components that can be assembled on site. But it is not intended to be movable.
Thank you.
All right, other questions? Okay, not seeing any questions. I think we can move to close the hearing and begin our discussion. So Commissioner Chapin, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
And Commissioner Bland, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed and we'll begin our discussion. And as I stated that we are binding on location, and that is the item that is the aspect of this that we'll want to definitely focus our comments on. We are advisory on design, so we certainly can provide some guidance on design that would be shared with the Public Design Commission, who will ultimately review this and have binding jurisdiction. So maybe as we give our comments, we start with location and work to design. So, Commissioner Shamir Barron, would you like to start this one?
Sure. You know, I don't think that, let's see. I think that this is a fantastic project, and all of the work, and I've thought so from the start on it, has been really, really commendable, both in the community and just the whole effort has been tremendous. And every time I walk by the site, I can't figure out why it's not done yet. But so I understand that that must be a great frustration for everyone, and that they're ready for it to be done because it's going to be beautiful. I guess I don't fully understand the location and then kind of the narrowest spot there, but I guess there was some thinking about it being the best place to, or the most frequented area, Chambers at West Broadway, I suppose. If in fact it is and it serves the program best, then I suppose it's all right. I'm also not, I kind of agree with the testimony that it does look like something that could otherwise be on wheels and probably ought to be, but I recognize the fact that they want something permanent here. And I think that stainless steel, while it's not wrought iron, as might be, you know, thematically appropriate here, is sort of the right material, is the material that's used in other park settings, and it's you know, easy to clean and so on. I don't, just as I feel about the location, I don't think it's ideal. I don't think it necessarily conforms with the kind of the history of the place, but I don't think it is unacceptable. And so I think I could approve it as presented.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Holford Smith. And just also just to give a little bit of context or direction for comments, I think, you know, we know that this triangle originally started as a transportation hub, and we went through this quickly in the presentation, but it had a lot of infrastructure, including an adjacent elevated train. And so it historically was not a designed green space. Having said that, it's sort of evolved over time and certainly has a sense of place now. But in terms of location, we'd be looking at it in relation to the triangle, but also in relation to the historic district. So is it too close to any buildings that it detracts from the architectural features of those buildings and so on? Okay, so Commissioner Holford Smith?
Yes. I think that the location is appropriate. It is at the more open south end of the triangle, the plaza, and near the subway entrance. And I think it'll generate a good amount of foot traffic to it. And I think as to the design, I understand testimony's desire to have something that would be more sympathetic to the design or to the sensibility of this location. But I think as a city kiosk, I think it's more important for it to be read as such and to be part of that other language with the other street furniture that we have, you know, bus stops and other, you know, vendor locations that have this similar kind of design. So I would actually be in favor of this design. I think that perhaps the graphics could be reduced And I think that the applicant said they were willing to consider that. So,
Okay. Commissioner Chapin.
I think I can, I'm okay with it as presented. I could approve it. I mean, support the application.
Commissioner Goldblum.
I agree. I think that it's part of the city's uniform street furniture. I think that it kind of disappears in that regard. It becomes part of the background visual noise of the city. And I'd be concerned that creating a one-off might make it more of an aesthetic focus for the worse, and you wouldn't kind of see around it as I think you would tend to do if it's just like all the other 500 that you saw yesterday.
Okay. Commissioner Devonshire.
I think it's approvable. It's, again, I don't think these things all have to be referential. They're actually of their contemporary period. And like Michael said, there's street furniture. It will not call undue attention to itself, as a matter of fact. And hopefully it will be maintained and it's created of materials that will be relatively easy to maintain. And so I think it's okay.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Chen.
Yeah, I am thinking along the same way. And while you were all speaking and also the testimony, my mind flashed back to the green structure that's on the LPC home on the 1 Center Street on the northern side of our plaza on the 1 Center North, the Muni building. There are two similar structures out there, but that one was more contextual, so to speak. That I do not know if that's a DOT project or how that came about, but that is the contrast. I think the similar discussion happened with like lampposts. I know, for example, Little Italy has a lot of preference for more contextual lampposts, street furniture, versus a standard contemporary, easy to maintain structure. So there's no right way or wrong way, but I was just thinking when you were speaking, the two green structure, this concession just north of the LPC home, the current home, that is the example I was thinking about.
Okay, Commissioner Bland.
Yes, those two largely empty for most of the time I have been serving on the commission. Unfortunately, once upon a time you could get a great taco there. I don't know why they're empty. Yeah, I'll just add to the theme that's already being expressed around the table, virtual as it is. I think these are completely appropriate. They should not, absolutely should not attempt to take form or vernacular articulation from their surroundings. I mean, what more ludicrous thing can you see here, having some cast iron elements put onto it, or for a little further east, maybe it should be a little palazzo, ridiculous. This is part of the street furniture, part of it's like, remember phone booths, when we had phone booths, they were all over the city. They weren't individually, except occasionally, maybe in Chinatown, Wellington, I think I remember one. But in any event, I just want to support what's been said. I think what's wrong with it, though, is the lame graphics. I think these graphics could be a lot more interesting and fun. Think of maybe for a moment you're in another city where we're less hidebound, and it could just be more fun. But that's how they become customized. They do look like a food truck, and I think that's a good thing. Whether it's on wheels or not on wheels, I think it looks and feels like a food truck. Now, as I say that, this is a dangerous time, and I suppose that these are not being rolled out immediately, but boy, would I hate to have these things be competing with our poor restaurants all over the city that are struggling to stay alive. But cannibalizing their clientele would be wrong, but maybe we'll get back to a normal
finding somebody.
normalcy soon, and they'll just add to the public activity in these public plazas is only a good thing.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Lutfi.
Yeah, hi. I'm just going to say that I agree with everybody's feeling that this is kind of the street vernacular in terms of street furniture vernacular in the city. And I think it's a good thing to have something that's consistent, that signals to people that you're approaching one of these kiosks for food, just like we have kiosks that are newsstands, and as Diana said, bus stops. I like the fact that it's very neutral and is almost like an envelope waiting to be filled by food, and the people serving it. I also don't have a problem with the graphics because, I think only one, the Asia dog, seems to be rather large, but the others are sort of discreet, and they're promoting the brands of whatever, food purveyor is using them. So I'm okay with that too.
All right, thank you. And Commissioner Gustafson.
I think the location is fine, and I guess because it's a plain, unremarkable structure, it won't call undue attention to itself, so it's fine.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think that we have a consensus to issue a favorable report on the location. And so Commissioner Shamir Barron, would you read that motion?
Of course. Sorry, I just have to get it out. Okay. In the matter of the binding report, LPC 2102877, West Broadway, Reed, Chambers, and Hudson Streets, James BOGARDUS Triangle, Tribeca West Historic District. A raised triangular-shaped pedestrian island created in 1920, and the application is to install a PDC-approved food kiosk. I note that the site started as a transportation hub in the late 1870s related to the since demolished elevated train line that ran along West Broadway that was converted to a raised pedestrian plaza circa 1920 and was renamed the James BOGARDUS Triangle in 1989. And I also note that the Hudson Street between Reed and Chambers Streets has been closed off to vehicular traffic since 2010 and has been used as a temporary pedestrian plaza and seating area immediately adjacent to the triangle, and that the design of the proposed kiosk has been pre-approved by the Public Design Commission, and the LPC review is limited to placement and impact on the streetscape. I recommend approval, finding that the installation of the proposed kiosk will not cover or eliminate any historic fabric or paving or block views of significant buildings in the streetscape. That the proposed kiosk, located at the narrowest area of the triangle along the southeastern edge of West Broadway and Chambers Street, will be seen in context with a commission-approved planting beds with integral seating, fencing, lighting, and freestanding cast iron clock, and will not call undue attention to itself. And that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the Tribeca West Historic District.
Thank you. Commissioner Devonshire, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right, Rich, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Shamir Barron,
Oh,
Commissioner Chapin, Commissioner Chapin.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Devonshire, Commissioner Devonshire.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi, Commissioner Lutfi.
I said aye, sorry.
Okay, didn't hear you. All right. And Commissioner Holford Smith.
Aye.
All right, with 10 in favor and none opposed, the motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move to the next item.
Thank you, commissioners. Take care.
The next item is number 4, LPC 20-05802, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 539, Lot 42, 201 Sullivan Street, aka 169 Bleecker Street in the South Village Historic District. A stripped Greek Revival style row house built in 1835. The application is to modify a masonry opening and install a barrier-free access ramp.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's Amy Wooden, Preservation Staff. The application before you today is to modify masonry opening at the west facade of 201 Sullivan Street and install a barrier-free access ramp. The building is located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Bleecker and Sullivan Streets in the South Village Historic District, and it has been altered prior to the 1940s tax photo, which you see on this page here. These are the existing conditions at the building, and the existing grade of the street slopes down to the Bleecker Street corner. So the work will take place at the entrance on Sullivan Street related to the corner restaurant tenant, which is shown on the right of the screen. The ductwork shown at this entrance is related to the restaurant and was installed prior to the designation of the historic district. This is not part of the proposal before you today, but please note that the work proposed at the northern building entrance on the left will be reviewed at staff level. So to maintain the required sidewalk clearance, the turning radius of the ramp will need to recess into the facade at a modified entrance. And here we see a plan and elevation. And the existing metal door will be removed and the opening widened 2 feet 8 inches. And the new entrance infill featuring a metal and glass door and side light will be recessed 1 foot 6 inches from the existing plane of the facade. The ramp will be untinted concrete to match the finish of the surrounding sidewalk and feature 2 black finished metal railings. Please note that this elevation shows the correct entrance infill and ramp configuration, but does not accurately reflect what is proposed at the door surround. So moving to detail 5 in the lower right corner of the 4 elevation details shows the proposed door surround. The new masonry opening will replicate the simple stucco arch door surround that is present at the door openings throughout this facade. And the interior ramp details on this page relate to work being done at the northernmost entrance that's reviewed at staff level. The applicant is here to discuss the appropriateness of the proposal and answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. The applicant may go ahead and speak.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time today. My name is Alan Azarkian. Been working on this project, trying to find the best, least invasive way to install a ramp, whether it's in the interior or exterior, and which is the best side to put it on. After exploring all options, it's come to the Sullivan side, which will not be so intrusive on the public right of way if it was on the Bleecker side, given the obstructions there, as well as not taking any finances into account, disrupting the entire restaurant by eliminating more than half of its usable square footage. So the best option that we came about was putting it on the exterior of Sullivan's side and hugging the exterior wall as close as possible, but to do so to allow for the most possible pedestrian access alongside the ramp and between the tree pit that's there. We are requesting a recess of the facade entryway about 1.5 feet to accommodate the 5-foot turning radius of the ADA ramp, accessible ramp. We're trying to be as minimal as possible with the design, clean, to fit the historical context of the building. We are going to propose a new vision light as well as a new glass door with a semicircle arch mimicking the rest of the design of the building. The ramp will have very minimal handrail to meet code, as clean and almost invisible as possible, so the building facade can be accentuated and visible cleanly. So we've taken as many precautions and research diligence to making sure that this is the only viable possible option. And having an accessible access for this restaurant space. And this is the best that we have come up with, and open to any suggestions that you may have. So with that said, please, if there's anything I can clarify or any questions I may answer.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions? No, okay. So I don't see any questions right now. We may have more after we listen to testimony, but we'll move to testimony right now. And if you're in the meeting and would like to speak, please raise your hand so we can identify you. And Lisa Krusavich will walk us through the testimony, starting with anyone who signed up in advance. Lisa?
Okay, and we had one person sign up to speak. That's Kelly Carroll, who I've brought in.
Kelly Carroll, Historic Districts Council. And I just want to note that we wrote this before hearing from the applicant, and I did hear you say that this was the best you could do. But with that, HDC found the solutions proposed for this application to be haphazard in nature, and we wondered if there are better options for ADA access. Specifically, can access be accommodated internally or at the primary entrance on Bleecker Street? The treatment of the entrance labeled proposed door 102 requires resolution, as this entry's breadth is wider than the blind arch above it. HDC only notes these arches because they are historic alterations which are present in the tax photograph. And on a building categorized as stripped, these details should be closely examined to not further degrade the streetscape. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay, and Rich, did we receive any written testimony?
We do have a resolution from Manhattan Community Board 2 recommending denial of the application, excuse me, most regarding what they call an unacceptable intrusion onto the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to turn to the applicant and ask if you'd like to respond to the comments. I know that you did make a last minute change to the design.
Yes.
Which happened, I think, after probably the Historic Districts Council wrote their testimony, and also actually after the staff's comments were written. So commissioners, you should note that the staff comments also don't reflect the current design at the door.
Understood. On a side note, I really want to thank Amy and Emma. They've been immensely helpful in this whole process. But yes, to Kelly's question, this was the best option, given a lot of parameters and constraints on the site and internally of the building, without taking any finances or monetary restrictions into account. As far as the arch goes, yes, we would like to stay within the historical context of the building and propose to alter the arch to cover the new proposed entrance, the 5'4" inches entrance. The stucco will mimic exactly as the other arches, just a little bit wider. And as far as being intrusive on the sidewalk, which was the community board's 2 denial based on, we actually measured everything, and we do have about 3.5 feet of access way for the pedestrians, which should qualify for DOT permission to proceed. And we are not protruding more than 44 inches from the exterior of the building within code limits.
All right, great, thank you. And can you go back to your facade elevation? I think to the door that we're talking about, where you're modifying the arch to fit the width of the door, which has a required side light, is also partially obscured by a vent, which I believe is to remain, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, but you're otherwise matching the details, just widening it to
correct
conform to the size of the opening. All right, commissioners, do we have any? Thank you. Any final questions? All right, I think we'll move to our discussion then. And I'm starting to request to unmute you, or to unmute you if I am able. And Commissioner Bland, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
All right, and Commissioner Lutfi, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the hearing is closed. And so as we heard, this is a proposal for a ramp on the side elevation at an entry that would have a required side light. They are now conforming, modifying
Can't
the
hear
arch.
you.
They're modifying the arch to conform to the opening. and the ramp is fairly low and is not required to have as many pickets, so it's somewhat transparent. Commissioner Holford Smith, would you like to start on this one?
Sure. I'm glad to see that the applicant has modified the presentation from what they had originally proposed, which was a little bit disturbing to see that arch stop partially through the new entry door. I think it's commendable that they're providing handicapped access, and I think they've found a way to do it that's relatively unobtrusive. And I think taking the existing opening, widening it, and widening the arch above the door is appropriate. So I can approve the application. I would hope that the applicant could do something about the ductwork and wiring that is otherwise marring the facade of this building.
Right, which are not part of this application.
No, I know.
It's nice to encourage it. Okay.
Encourage it.
No.
Commissioner Goldblum?
I agree.
Okay, Commissioner Devonshire?
I agree as well.
Okay, and Commissioner Chen?
Same here.
And Commissioner Bland?
I'm on board.
Commissioner Lutfi? You're still muted, Commissioner Lutfi.
I agree.
Okay, Commissioner Gustafson?
It's appropriate.
Commissioner Shamir Barron? Okay, so I think we are all in agreement. This is appropriate. And Commissioner Holford Smith, would you read the motion?
Yes. In the matter of LPC 20-05802, 201 Sullivan Street, aka 169 Bleecker Street in the South Village Historic District. A stripped Greek Revival style row house built in 1835. Application is to modify a masonry opening and install a barrier-free access ramp. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the South Village Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the modern door to be removed is not a significant architectural feature of the building and will facilitate barrier-free access to the commercial ground floor. That the modified door opening will maintain a harmonious relationship with the variety of door and window openings at this highly altered facade. That the proposed ramp featuring unfinished concrete and simple black finished metal handrails will not eliminate or obscure any significant architectural features of the building or sidewalk. And that the proportion, scale, and placement of the proposed ramp will not overwhelm or detract from the significant architectural features or proportions of this corner building.
Thank you. And Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right, Rich, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Shamir Barron,
Oh,
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Devonshire, Commissioner Devonshire.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi,
aye.
and Commissioner Holford Smith.
Aye.
All right, with 10 in favor and none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. That's approved, and we'll move to the next item.
Next item is number 5, LPC 20-06245. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 1197, Lot 52, 40 to 42 West 84th Street in the Upper West Side Central Park West Historic District. A neo-Renaissance style apartment building designed by George F. Pelham and built in 1916 to 17. The application is to install railings and alter the existing penthouse addition.
Commissioners, the applicants have joined the hearing. Staff will be presenting components of the proposal, but the applicants are available for questions. And staff, you may begin.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Dina Tasswinter, Preservation Staff. The application before you is 40 West 84th Street, a neo-Renaissance apartment building located on West 84th Street between Columbus Avenue and Central Park West. The proposal is to alter visible portions of the existing penthouse by building up the roof in order to install a terrace and terrace railings, and altering the masonry openings and recladding at the north and west penthouse facades, as well as replacing visible metal railings at the west parapet with glass railings. None of the proposed work will be visible over this primary facade. And these are the existing penthouse and roof plans. Commissioners will note that the west facade here and limited portions of the north facade are the visible portions under your review. And the visibility is from a vantage point of several hundred feet as you move west along West 84th Street, which you will see shortly in the visibility study photographs. Here are the proposed plans. Again, the locations of work include the west facade and a portion of the north facade from an oblique angle, as well as the proposed replacement railings at the west parapet. The new construction that you can see in the northeast area of the roof is not under your review as it meets staff level work because it is not visible from any public thoroughfare. Here's the existing west elevation, including the existing parapet railing. And here's the proposed, which shows the 11 inches of raised roof required to install the terrace, as well as the terrace railings, the modified window openings, and the replacement railing at the parapet. This is the north primary penthouse facade, which again is not visible over the primary facade, but will be visible from an oblique angle, as you'll see in the photographs. And this is just a detail of the inboard mounted parapet. So to move on to the visibility study, the modifications are not visible to the east of the building, and they are also not visible directly over the west facade, nor are they visible from the rear. This view with the mock-up is showing the most prominently visible view, which is view 6 here on the plan. So this is looking back toward the building from across Columbus along West 84th Street. The mock-up shows the full height of the 11 inches of built-up roofing, as well as the 42-inch railing above that. And you can also see the existing metal parapet railing here and the existing metal cladding finish of the penthouse and the existing window openings. Here's the rendered view, which you'll note that while the rendering shows the railings appearing to be shaded, here, due to the presence of the mock-up in the photograph, the intent is actually to install a clear glass railing. You can also see the proposed enlarged masonry openings and the proposed dark gray stucco cladding. The building begins to recede from view as you progress further west along Columbus Avenue. And here's the existing penthouse and penthouse roof, details showing the existing metal cladding to be replaced. And here are the existing railings at the parapet that they are proposing to replace with glass railings. So the applicants are here to answer any questions, and I will return to the rendered view. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Commissioners, do we have any questions, either for staff or the applicant? Okay, not seeing any questions yet. We'll move to public testimony. And if you're in the meeting and would like to testify, please raise your hand so we can identify you, and I'll turn it over to Lisa to walk us through the testimony.
Okay, and we had 2 people sign up. So I'm going to start with Sean Corsandi. Okay, Sean, you should be in now.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sean Corsandi for Landmark West. The Landmark West Certificate of Appropriateness Committee is nonplussed by the penthouse revamp. The stucco is debatably better than the standing seam metal siding. The main concern of our committee lies with the additional rooftop railing. Since this will be publicly visible from certain vantage points, our committee once again suggests a metal railing which can dissipate against the sky rather than catch the glare of the sun and read as an additional volume atop this landmark. The Landmark West Certificate of Appropriateness Committee would suggest approval of this application with that slight modification. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, 2 also signed up, Kelly Carroll, and then Kelly will be followed by Michelle Parker.
Kelly Carroll, Historic Districts Council. Basically ditto what Sean said. HDC Unlike a recent application at the Café des Artistes, where railings were located on the northern side of the building and were minimally visible, these rails face several directions and are visually prominent. Thus, HDC is consistent in our position that an open metal rail should be used rather than a glass one. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Michelle Parker, I've just brought you in. And you just need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Good afternoon, Michelle Parker, Community Board 7, co-chair of the Preservation Committee. Our committee, as well as our full board, approved this application. I just want to zero in on the recommendations of the prior speakers. We had spoke about metal railings also, but the applicant assured us that they would contact the Audubon Society to discuss the types of coatings used on glass, essentially to prevent birds from flying into them. So we think that's a viable option. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and nobody else has their hand raised.
All right, Rich, do we have any written testimony?
Nothing that already hasn't been mentioned.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to turn to the applicant now and ask if you'd like to respond to some of the comments that were brought up in the testimony, primarily the use of glass at the railing and the question of whether or not you studied a cable wire mesh railing or some other type of metal railing, and what your thoughts were about the glass and the appropriateness of the glass.
Hello, my name
Hello.
is Josh Weisselberg. I'm the architect related to the application. Of course, the glass railing was selected by us and our client with the interest of having as little opaque objects in the view as possible. I understand that glass can catch the sun's reflection. We've used glass a few times in New York City and found that it tends to be quite subtle. We use a low iron glass, and it's a very clear glass. Even when we use stainless steel cable rails, you still get that reflection off the cable rails. And in fact, the client here has asked us to replace the existing metal railing on that west facade with glass for the same purpose of being able to see further clear without obstruction. In terms of the birds, we did look up the Audubon Society's recommendations, and I think in the presentation we did note that there is they have a recommendation of a UV coating, or it's like a UV coating that goes on the glass that's invisible to us, but it's kind of like a fritted finish to birds. So they had a few different options. They either have different kinds of frits, which we can all see, or this UV frit, which we can't see. And we're planning to be using that one. I think we haven't priced it out yet. I don't know what exactly that involves, but it's our belief that that's what we'll be using. In terms of using a metal railing or a cable railing, I think that this is the preferred for our client, but if that's a discussion we need to take to them, we can certainly do that.
Okay, all right, thank you. And just commissioners, for clarification, when the applicant described the existing metal railing, that is at the main roof of the building, which is to be proposed to be replaced with glass. I don't think that there is currently a railing on top of the penthouse, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, that's correct. I'm sorry. Yes, okay. The lower railing is
so the lower
steel.
railing exists, and they'd propose to replace it with glass. Okay. Yeah. All right, commissioners, do we have any final questions? All right. I think we'll move to our discussion. So I am unmuting you or asking to unmute. So look for that message on your screen. And Commissioner Holford-Smith, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
And Commissioner Bland, would you second that motion?
Second.
Great. Okay. So,
We need to vote.
sorry, thank you. Always happens at the end of the day. All in favor of closing the hearing, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing is closed and our discussion will begin. And this is an existing penthouse and an existing railing at the main roof, and the proposal is to modify the cladding and fenestration of the penthouse and replace the existing railing with a glass railing and add a new railing on top of the penthouse. So why don't we go ahead and start? And Commissioner Devonshire, would you like to start this one?
Sure. I like your idea, Sarah, of the cable mesh railing rather than glass. The glass will be apparent on the south and east facades now. So I can approve it with a cable mesh.
Okay. Commissioner Chen?
I concur.
Commissioner Bland?
I concur, but I also want to say how happy I was, delighted really, to hear of the testimony that talked about birds hitting glass. It's a huge, huge architectural problem that architects are not facing. And I don't think that this little piece of glass being proposed here, which I oppose for other reasons, would not be too susceptible to birds. But nonetheless, I'm glad to hear it raised as an issue. It should be talked about more. But I oppose it here not because of that or the utility that a user might find behind it, which produces less wind, perhaps a more panoramic view. But for those of us down on the ground looking up at it, admittedly not hugely prominent here as it is in some other cases, glass is very, very visible. It's not just when the sun strikes it, it's a visible thing. And in most cases, I have opposed it because of the inappropriateness, I think, of the visibility when viewed in relationship to the immediacy of the surrounding material. So that's why I'm opposing it here. And I think mesh works, probably a cable railing. I'm not even sure it'd be legal here because of the climbing possibilities of cable on cable. But nonetheless, mesh is the way to go in my judgment.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Gustafson?
I concur with everyone else.
Okay, Commissioner Shamir Barron?
I do as well. Thank you.
And Commissioner Holford Smith?
I agree about the railing, but I had an additional comment about the finish of the penthouse, which is rendered as a very dark gray. And I think that a lighter color would make it recede better. Maybe something closer to what the elevator bulkhead is, or something closer to the side of the building.
Okay. All right. And Commissioner Chapin?
I agree. I think that the railing should not be glass; it should be metal. And I'm not sure about the color of the whether it should perhaps be something a little less. The color should be whatever would be less, likely to stand out. And I don't know what other commissioners feel about that. So,
all right, Commissioner Goldblum.
I agree with the consensus. I think that if they wanted to make the color a little bit lighter, it would probably be a good thing. But I'm okay with it.
Okay, so commissioners, do others think that the color of the stucco should be restudied in consultation with the staff to help it to recede from view?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll add that into the motion. So Commissioner Devonshire, would you make a motion to approve with the modifications that the glass rail be replaced with a cable wire mesh rail or other railing in consultation with staff, and that the color of the stucco be restudied in consultation with the staff?
Happy to do that.
Thank you.
In the matter of LPC 20-06245 4042 West 84th Street in the Upper West Side, Central Park West Historic District, an application to install railings and alter the existing penthouse addition. I recommend approval with some modifications, finding that the proposed work will not damage any significant architectural features of the building that the existing one-story penthouse is already visible from oblique angles along West 84th Street. So the increasing the height of the roof in order to facilitate the installation of a terrace will not appreciably add to the visibility of the addition. That the proposed terrace at the penthouse roof will only be visible over the west lot line facade from a distance of several hundred feet along West 84th Street. That the proposed railings only visible from oblique angles over the secondary west facade along West 84th Street will be seen in conjunction with other rooftop accretions. That the proposed modified window openings in the west facade of the penthouse are typical of punched openings found at rooftop additions within the district in terms of their shape and size. And that the applicant will work with staff to alter the railing from glass to a cable mesh design, and also work with staff to determine a more appropriate color for the addition siding. Thus, the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural or historic character of the Upper West Side Central Park West Historic District.
Thank you. Commissioner Halford Smith, would you second that motion? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I second it.
And Rich, will you call the vote?
Yes. Did we note that Commissioner Lutfi is left for the day?
Well, you just did. So
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Shamir Barron.
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin.
Aye.
Commissioner Chen.
Aye.
Commissioner Devonshire.
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
And Commissioner Holford Smith.
Aye.
Okay, with 9 in favor and none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you. So that's approved with those modifications, and we'll move to the next item.
The next item is number 6, LPC 20-124, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 1896, Lot 7501. 2935 Broadway, aka 2931 to 2939 Broadway, 600 West 115th Street in the Morningside Heights Historic District. A Renaissance Revival style apartment building designed by Gaetan Aiello and built in 1910. The application is to install window film at a storefront.
Commissioners, the applicants have joined the hearing. Please remember to unmute yourself and state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Hi, my name's Christy Finizio. I'm with KPA. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Oh, there we go. Oops. Okay, so this building is in the 9th District, Morningside Heights. It's on the corner. The building itself is on the corner of Broadway and 115th Street, right across from one of the entrances to Columbia University. This is a plan of the building showing the ground floor retail space, which will be occupied by Lululemon. They're currently under construction. To the south of Lululemon is Cohen's Optical, which is an eyewear store, and to the north on the corner is Sweet Greens. The residential lobby to the building is on 115th Street, where my mouse is. Here's a shot of the building from across the street, showing the full scale of it. The next photo is of the Sweet Greens facade. And then the one on the far right is showing the storefront work that was done by the landlord, completed in early 2019 for Cohen's Optical and Lululemon. So Lululemon didn't do their own storefront work. That was done by the landlord. When we first surveyed the space, this is what it looked like: ground floor, pretty open, with a stair that goes down to the basement space, which Lululemon will use as a stockroom. This basement is a much smaller footprint than the building itself. And the stair, which is shown in photos on the right, is not legal by code. Very, very steep. And it also is in very close proximity to the existing electrical service. So right now we were faced right off the bat with a condition where the stair is pretty dangerous and we don't have the proper access to the electrical panels, which is required by code. So what we proposed, what we were proposing was a new stair that was code compliant. But in trying to locate that stair, we studied everything, other sides of the building coming across, and without really impeding so much on the retail space itself, this was the solution that would work. This was the only solution that would work. We have to clear some major utility lines, which one is a steam pipe that cannot be relocated. And so having the stair in this location was really what we found to be our only option. And what that then did was it put a stair right on the storefront. So in order to, so we still have some display windows. You can see all glass, for the majority of the facade, and the doors are glass, and this door will not be in an open position. So this is also glass. However, we don't want people walking down the street to see into the egress stair that goes down to the basement. So what we would like to propose is film that is applied on the inside face of the glass that will obscure any view in, but still let light into the space. Again, we did look at other options of perhaps providing a roller shade of some sort that could be set back, but given the tightness of the space, this really was the only option that would work to not let people see in. This was a rendering that we did originally of the space, showing what the translucent film would look like, which would then obscure the edge of the wall. And then I appeared on the job site on the 24th, I believe it was, of September, and the GC had taken it upon himself to put up the film. So what this meant to us was that we used this as a mock-up, finding things that we liked about it. One of them being that you can see in that it's not an opaque film. You are really obscuring. And so that was one of the things that we liked, but one of the things that we did not like was that the installation of said film was not covering over the edge of the wall, which it was supposed to do. This is a blow up photo of showing that condition. So you can see here what the film would look like if it's covering over the wall fully, which is what our intention is with this, so that you will not have this thick, dark black line, but rather just a shadow effect. This is the elevation drawings showing the condition. And then here we have the storefront materials, glazing. Again, the landlord provided the storefront. And here is what the condition will look like with the film on the glass, and what it will look like from the inside. So you'll still even see people walking by. And that's pretty much it. These were the drawing. This was what the building looked like before Lululemon came in, and before the landlord provided the new storefront. I just included them at the end. But that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions? All right, not seeing any questions right now. We'll move to public testimony. If you'd like to testify on this item, please raise your virtual hand so we can identify you. And I will turn it over to Lisa Kersavage to walk us through the testimony.
Okay, well, thank you. Nobody signed up to speak on this item, and I do not see any hands raised.
All right, thank you. And Rich, do we have any written testimony?
We have a resolution from Manhattan Community Board 9 recommending denial, citing the inappropriateness of the translucent white vinyl.
Okay, so I'd like to turn to the applicant. Do you want to talk about the community board's comments and your meeting with them and your response?
I'm actually really surprised because when I met with them, they told us that they were approving it. So I don't know where that's coming from. They voted to approve when I was on a Zoom. So
okay, that's interesting.
So should I note about the committee and then, or do we not want to?
Okay, so the committee, why don't you go ahead and explain it, Rich?
Sure. So the committee voted to approve, but the full board did not.
Understood. Okay.
I see. Okay.
I understand. I mean, we understand that the staff level ruling is to allow vinyl up to 4 feet in height. But unfortunately, this doesn't obscure any vision into what would be an egress stair. We understand that the ruling is for a display window, but clearly we're not allowed to display anything in these windows. So we find that that it's more appropriate to obscure them than to keep clear glass where you're going to just be seeing a back of house space.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do we have any final questions? All right, I think we're ready to move to close the hearing and begin our discussion. And so, sorry, as I'm unmuting many of the commissioners, you'll have to accept that unmuting request. And Commissioner Shamir Barron, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Okay, and Commissioner Holford Smith, would you second that motion?
I second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed and we'll begin our discussion. And maybe we could again go to the full street elevation or the photograph of it. That shows it in the context of the whole base of the building. Okay, well that may be too zoomed out. Corey, I'll defer to you on the best image to have up while we have our discussion. Commissioner Gustafson, would you like to start this one?
I have no issue with this whatsoever.
Okay. Commissioner Shamir Barron?
I can approve it as presented. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Holford Smith?
I have no problem with it.
Commissioner Chapin?
Yeah, I can support it.
Commissioner Goldblum?
Read.
Commissioner Devonshire?
I'm okay with it.
Commissioner Chen?
Yeah.
And Commissioner Bland?
It's appropriate enough.
Okay, I think while it does make the window translucent, it will obscure this interior condition. And I think that given the context of the entire building and the multiple storefronts, that there's certainly enough animation and view into the stores throughout the base of this building that this one section doesn't detract from the commercial character of the base of the building. So with that, Commissioner Gustafson, would you make the motion?
In the matter of LPC 20-10024, 2935 Broadway, also known as 2931 to 2939 Broadway, or 600 West 115th Street, Morningside Heights Historic District. The application is to install window film at a storefront. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Morningside Heights Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed film will block visibility into an expanded exit stair required by code, that the proposed film will be applied to the interior face of the glazing, and that its installation will be reversible, that the limited installation of the film at one display window will not substantially reduce the overall level of transparency at the storefronts at this large building, and that the work will not detract from the significant architectural features of the building or the historic district.
You and Commissioner Holford Smith, would you second that motion?
I second it.
All right, Rich, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Shamir Barron,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Devonshire,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
and Commissioner Holford Smith.
Aye.
Okay, with 9 in favor and none opposed, the motion carries.
That's approved. Thank you. And we'll move to the next and final item.
Indeed, that's item number 7, LPC 21-01275, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of the Bronx, Block 2315, Lot 21, 311 East 140th Street in the Mott Haven Historic District, a vernacular-style row house built in 1874. The application is to modify the areaway and front facade and install a barrier-free access chairlift.
Commissioners, I will note that staff will be presenting the components of this proposal and the applicant is available for questions. And staff, you may begin.
Okay, good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Dina Posner from the Preservation staff, and I will be presenting this application for 311 East 140th Street. The applicant and owner, again, are also present to answer any questions. And this application is to modify the areaway and front facade in order to install a barrier-free access chairlift, which will create an accessible route to the cellar level. The cellar is being converted to community space. This slide shows the location of the property. This streetscape shows the context on the block. The smallest building near the center is where the work is proposed here. The 1940s and 1980s tax photos are shown here. As you can see, there were some changes to the house and areaway between when these two photos were taken. In particular, the wrought iron areaway fence was modified in conjunction with the installation of the brick piers, which you can see here. The next several slides show existing condition photos. You can see here the existing front facade and an overall view of the existing conditions at the sunken areaway, including the modern planter. There is currently an entrance to the cellar at the side of the stoop and 2 cellar level windows. And there is currently an L-shaped staircase to the cellar level on the west side of the areaway. This shows the current conditions at the historic wrought iron fencing. This shows the existing and proposed plans at sidewalk level. The proposed plan shows the entrance to the areaway shifted to the east with a walkway created to access the chairlift adjacent to the front facade and a new set of stairs adjacent to the areaway fence. The historic wrought iron fencing will be shifted and reused at the front areaway, and a simple metal picket railing will be installed at the east side of the areaway. This shows the existing and proposed plans at cellar level. One of the cellar level window openings will be sealed with masonry and blocked by the lift mast. The applicants have stated that the existing cellar level entrance at the side of the stoop is not code compliant for barrier-free access. The westernmost window opening will therefore be lengthened and the window replaced with a door. This shows the existing and proposed elevations. Note that the wrought iron fencing will be largely reused with only approximately 3 inches not reused in order to create the minimum clearances necessary. And these are the sections, the proposed showing the grade change, the lift, and the lengthening of the opening and the proposed door. And the next couple of slides show some renderings of the proposal and some additional views here. And finally, this shows an example of the modern metal picket fence for the side of the areaway, the proposed chairlift, and the proposed door. And that completes the presentation. And I believe if the owner is present, they would like to make some brief remarks about the proposal. So Lynn, if you are present, you can unmute yourself and state your name for the record if you would like to make your remarks. Thank you. Not sure.
So I don't believe she's in the hearing.
Okay. She and the applicant can also speak to this. I believe he is present, but she just wanted to make some remarks about the use of the space and the conversion to a community space, which has necessitated the barrier-free access. Matthias, I'm not sure if I'm sure he's present if he wants to comment on that.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Matthias Müller. I'm the architect
Dina perfectly presented the application and the reason for the barrier-free access is to convert the cellar to a community facility, and per code that requires a barrier-free access, handicapped access. And I think that's all that Lynn wanted to explain. She wanted to present a little better the community facility use. And but I think she's running late.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? Okay, not seeing any questions now. We'll take public testimony and we'll come back to you. And if you're in the meeting and would like to testify on this item, please raise your hand and Lisa Krasavich will take us through the public testimony.
Okay, great. And we have one person, Kelly Carroll, who signed up to speak.
Kelly Carroll, Historic Districts Council. The historic fence suddenly ends at the proposed new stair and lift entry. This cast iron fence needs a better termination, such as a post and a sympathetic vocabulary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And that concludes the testimony.
Okay, thank you. And Rich, do we have any written testimony?
We don't actually have any written testimony.
Okay, thank you. So I think I'll turn back to the applicant. Would you like to respond to the comment about the railing, Mr. Mueller?
Sure, I think it's a good idea. It can be incorporated. If you look at the 1940s tax photo, there are posts around the gate, and possibly we could recreate some condition like that.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, are there any final questions? Okay, I'm going to start unmuting all of you or requesting to unmute so we can move to close the hearing and begin our discussion. So Commissioner Chapin, would you make a motion? Oh, sorry. Yeah, make a motion to close the hearing. I wasn't sure if you were here or not.
Yeah, a motion, yes.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner. Close the hearing. Okay. Commissioner Bland, would you second that motion?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the hearing is closed and we'll begin our discussion. And, I will note that we recently adopted our rules, created new rules for barrier-free access. And one of the solutions that's the staff is now allowed to approve are lifts that go down into front areaways. This involved adjustment of ironwork and windows in a way that didn't meet the rules, but I think is consistent with the spirit of that. So Commissioner Goldblum, would you like to start the discussion?
Sure, thank you. Well, this is an amazingly beautiful little house. And it's great that the seller is finding a new use. And it's wonderful to see that this neighborhood continues to flourish. I would suggest, I think it's appropriate with a couple of minor suggestions. Number one, I think that the existing window opening should not be bricked up, but should be covered over with a brownstone stucco so that the opening remains visible, and should life change down the road, it could be recovered as a window and wouldn't be lost. And I think that the applicant can put muntins into the simulated true divided lights into the door, so that at least from the street level, the rhythm of the windows is retained. Both of those things can be done with staff. And I think the suggestion about the post is a good one. The applicant's open to it, so they should incorporate that too.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Devonshire?
I agree with Michael's comments, and it's approvable.
Okay. Commissioner Chen?
Likewise here, the train will just pass by.
All right. Commissioner Bland?
Yeah, sorry to lose that beautiful flowery front garden, but a higher priority has to be accessibility, and this is an acceptable way of getting it.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Gustafson?
It's appropriate.
Okay. Commissioner Shamir Barron,
I agree, it is appropriate.
Commissioner Holford Smith.
I agree.
Okay, and Commissioner Chapin.
I agree.
Okay, so I think as we went around the table and as you all were agreeing, I have read that or understood that to be agreeing with the modifications that Commissioner Goldblum suggested as well. So,
Of course.
so we'll go ahead and make a motion with those conditions. Commissioner Goldblum, would you make that motion?
Sure. Regarding 311 East 140th Street in the Mott Haven Historic District, the application is to modify the areaway and front facade and install a barrier-free access chairlift. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Mott Haven Historic District. I recommend approval with some minor modifications, finding that the proposed work will provide barrier-free access without eliminating or concealing any architectural features, but the house is not part of an extant row, and that is within a streetscape featuring a variety of building types and only one other areaway. Therefore, the proposed work will not detract from the surrounding properties. That the historic areaway fence was previously modified in conjunction with the installation of existing modern piers, and the proposed alterations will only remove a small portion of the remaining historic fencing. That the proposed lift and stairs and alterations to the cellar level of the facade will be largely screened from view from the public thoroughfares by fencing and the lower grade of the level of the areaway. That the lift, stairs, and areaway will be simply designed to feature materials and finishes typically found at areaways. That the ceiling of one window opening and lengthening of another window opening at the simply designed largely below grade portions of the facade will not detract from the overall facade design and composition. That the proposed door will match the historic window in terms of lintel level, width, and configuration and finish. And that none of the work will detract from the significant architectural features of the house or historic district, and the applicant will work with staff to change the infill of the window to brownstone stucco, to find a historically appropriate metal post to cap off the end of the historic salvaged railing, and to add muntins to the simulated true divided light muntins to the door, so in recollection of the previous design of the window.
And Commissioner Bland, would you second that motion?
Second.
Rich, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Shamir Barron, Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Devonshire,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
and Commissioner Holford Smith.
Aye.
All right, with 9 in favor and none opposed, the motion carries.
All right, so that's approved with those conditions. Please work with the staff to finalize that approval, and good luck. And that concludes our day. Thank you to our commissioners for your dedication and commitment all day. Thank you to the staff, and thank you to the public who joined us today. Have a great day, and we'll see you on December 8th.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.